Um, now we're gonna take a deeper look on how the San Juan scene was lighted. And I'd like to start by giving you an advice. And this advice is you have to start working step by step and little by little on your scene. And by this I'm referring that the lighting process can get confusing and complicated at some times. And this is because there are many things involved like lights and cameras. Also there are the scales, the props, and all of them are involved in the final process of lighting. That's why if you don't take small steps, you can get very confused and very complex. Now, the one of the first things you have to do is to put your key light, and this is the most important light, the one that has more energy, more light. For the case, it can be a sun, a big lamp, or a flashlight. And having this first stage of the scene, we can start working on top of this and adding detail to the lights. The key light is not always the one that has the biggest energy or the more light it can get in the scene, but it's the one that will define that color or that mood in the scene. Most of the time it's the sun. As you can see here, this sunlight, it's a V-Ray sun, and the parameters that are involved in this one, it's almost the ones that come as default when you drag and drop it. And what I wanted to do is to create some kind of lighting that resembles some kind of the ones I have in my references files. In some of them I have exact references of what happens when light goes inside a warehouse like the one we have. Just like this one, this is a very clear example. And as you can see, most of the light that it's coming to the scene comes from the sun. These other kind of scenes have more lights and it will be useful later on. But this is a great example of what I'm looking for to my scene. I'll pass my references to my second monitor. And just as I said at the beginning, we'll start working little by little, and we'll begin with the sun setup. And now this is where a plugin I already talked about in a different chapter will start playing its game, its magic, and it's called Solid Rocks. I'm not going to talk a lot on the plugin because there are many tutorials in internet and it will be very long to explain all the functionality on it. I just want to say that I didn't make a lot of tweaking here in the plugin. I'm just using most of the presets here in this bar. So what the plugin will be doing is when I slide this bar, will change the parameters in the render in V-Ray, so I can move from very simple setups of light or parameters of light to very complex and more detailed and advanced options, and simply by moving this bar here. I'll start working with a very small, well, as kind of small resolution, about 1000 pixels. And being just the beginning, I'm gonna work with a very basic stuff for the V-Ray setup, and also with the plugin with the Solid Rocks. That way I can see the results very fast. And I'm gonna be turning on each light separately so you can see what happened with each one and how it affects the scene. I'll hit render, and the only light that we'll be looking at how it affects the scene, it's the sun we have here. And let's see what result do we get from this. The render time for sure would be very fast at this point. So if the time were longer, it would be very hard to see, have an effective pipeline to see the results on what we are doing. And at this point, this is a relatively fast render from V-Ray. Let's see what we're getting at. And what I'm looking at these first stages of rendering, it's that I want to be sure that the scales are correct, the parameters are correct, and that with not that much effort on the scene, it begins to look good. And in this render, I kind of like it very much, how much light it's coming from the door and the windows. I also like the intensity of the light. And it's a very good start for the scene at this point. Very good. The next thing that I'm gonna do is start turning on some of the layers that I have hidden here, so we can start looking on how light affects the other objects in the scene. I'll turn on the layer of the structure of the markets, and of course I'll get more detail and a lot more information that it's actually on the scene at this point. So I'll make another test render for the whole scene, and I'm gonna look how the sun affects my scene in a more global way. Here we have a very similar result to the one we already have here. But even at this point, I can start seeing some bleeding from the floor to this part of the structures, and I'm starting to feel that this scene will look very nice. This is a very simple setup. Is what we just have here. It's a single light, no more. And my Solid Rocks preset, it's the most basic of all. And as you can see, we're getting a very decent result overall. So now what we'll be starting to do is add more detail and put some lights where I want to draw the viewer's attention on the scene. So now this is a good moment to get back to my references and take a look at what I would like to have in my scene. There are 2 or 3 particular images that really draw my attention on how the lights are lit. This is one of them. I really love how the fruits are lit here, and also how the colors are presented to the viewer of the photo. This is a great reference on what I'm looking for. But there's another one, just like this one, that I also like it a lot. I really like the intensity of the lights, this yellowish tint. I really like this photo. And also I have another photography that I like a lot. Just let me find it for you. And it's this one photograph. I really love the intensity of the lights. I really love it. And also the contrast on the fruits is great. So this is what I'm looking for. What I want to get in my next lighting stage. So before we pass to unhide a lot of objects here, I'm gonna work like this so we don't have high render times at this point. And so the next step will be, let me just turn on some of these structures here. And I'm gonna turn on this light that I call it Puesto Uno. As you can see, this is a spherical V-Ray light. Nothing fancy, but as you can see, the intensity parameters are really high, mainly because this is a small light. If I had a bigger light, of course the intensity of it would be lower. And I'll start making some testing this light. If I like how this light works, I might just clone it into a different kind of areas in my scene. Remember that at the beginning of this chapter we said that we'll be going step by step. So I won't be adding a lot of lights until I like the first one. Okay, so I'll begin with a render with just 2 lights. One will be just the plain sun and the other will be the light that will be filling this area. And at this point in the render, I'm starting to look that the light actually looks pretty nice. I'm liking the scene, and I just have 2 lights, mainly just a sun, and again it's just the sun and this light just filling this area, and I'm really liking how the parameters are working. Yeah, in fact I'm liking it a lot. I'm really liking the intensity of it, how it feels here, and also the color, the tint it has a yellowish tint that I took from the references. Yeah, I really like how this is coming out. Maybe the next step would be to clone this same light so over here, so I can replicate more or less the same intensity all over the scene. And here I want to point out something that I think it's important. At some point I got a critic about the image that the intensity of the light was not consistent with the actual size of the light bulbs that are in the scene. And maybe the comment is okay because as you can see the intensity is pretty high. But also someone once told me that in this industry if it looks okay then it is okay. So I'm giving you this advice because some people tend to be very orthodox on doing the things or do it physically correct, and sometimes it's not possible. But also I've known that in most of the people I know have their turnarounds, their cheatings, and their way of doing things in the best way and look good. As simple as it. If it looks good, it's okay. And I think it's the specific case of this light. Maybe the parameters of it are pretty high, the intensity is also high, but it looks okay here. And for me, it's more than enough to leave it just like that. The next step will be, of course, start turning on the other lights. And they are simple clones of this light I already liked. So I'll turn them on. There are these three lights. This one that is here on the foreground, and then this other one in the middle, and this one all the way back. I'm gonna turn this on too. Also this one that is way back here. I'll try just to check out that the light is actually that it's way back here. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'll make now another render, and I'll try to visualize all the lights that I'm having here, that it's the sun and the four lights that are filling this area. As you can notice now, we have a very logical and simple lighting process. No turnarounds, no cheating, just a simple linear process. Hopefully we'll have an image that should look nice. And by looking this area, it seems that it's working good at this point. We'll have to wait a little bit more once we have more objects and we have more occlusions to see actually how the things are coming out, but it's pretty nice at this point. Yeah, it's coming out pretty well. And just to say something, remember that we're just about half in the process of lighting this San Juan de Dios image. And as you can see, well, we're having a very simple process. We're not trying to get as many lights as possible. We don't have 100 lights. We're going light by light, and it's very, very simple. Just little by little. Now I'll pause the render. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is start unhiding more layers. So we can again test how things are coming out with more objects here. So I'll take this one now, and it has a lot of fruits in it, and that way I'll have a very nice approach on what will happen later on the overall scene. I'll hit render, and I'll pause the recording a little bit because this will take a while. Okay, well, the render has finished. The render time was not that high. It was just about around 2 minutes. And it's a very decent number, a very decent time because of the number of objects here and the scale of it. And we're getting a very nice result. One of the things that I want to point out is the quality of the lights that we're having. I think the light coming from the sun, it's giving us a very nice effect here. You can see the results on the floor are very nice, the reflections and bleedings. And if you remember, about a couple of minutes ago, I showed you some reference pictures I have on how I wanted my fruits to look like. And I'm beginning to get very close to these photographs that I have. Look at this. You can see here we are comparing, and it looks quite similar. And remember that we'll still be doing color correction process, post-processing, color, levels, and contrast adjustments in the final scene. And we're getting very nice results, even though we're having just a couple of lights. Just remember that we're just using the lights over here and the sunlight coming from the outside, and this is just the only interactions there are in this area now. And it looks like we're going in the right path here. The next step will be to think about what's missing on my scene, what we need to put on it to enrich it. And for me, there are two very important things missing. The first one is we need a fill light that help me define all these details we have here, and also the ones we have down here too. And why not having a backlight that makes this rim around the fruits and make it more separate them from the background and make them look shiny and nice. That's why I have here in my setup, in my light setup, these two lights that I'm going to show you now. I have a light that it's over here, that as you can see it's called Puesto Back. This light, it's a simple photometric spotlight. As you can see, the parameters are not that strange, just almost simple, and they're very high. But remember, if it looks good, it's okay. The shadows are hard shadows because the light is coming from a point and not from a disk or a bigger surface. And now we'll make a render with these lights and the fill light that I have over here. I'll turn off this layer so you can see it better now. Oops, and as you can see now on this side I have the actual fill light that it's here. I wasn't able to look at it to see it. And now this is the light that will reveal all the details that I can't see now with this setup. Okay, we'll start the rendering with these two lights filled and see what comes out of it. If you happen to have this kind of overexposure in your viewport, the shortcut for fixing this, it's very simple. It's just Control L on your keyboard, and you'll be able now to fix this. I'll unhide again all the structures and fruits, and let's see how the render comes out with these two new lights turned on. I'm gonna pause here. Okay, the render is over now. As you can see, the render time didn't get up too much from the past render, just a couple of seconds more. And here we have our original image and the new one, and the only difference on this between these two are these two new lights that we just happened to put in the scene. Actually, they were three. One V-Ray light pointing to this area of the image, that it's the one revealing all this information that we didn't have, and it's a very soft light that just make us reveal all the information that we didn't have. We have this backlight that it's coming from the back of here, that it's helping us to define the edges of the fruits over here and also over here too. As you can see here in the foreground, the shadows don't get as darker as on the previous image. And also it will reveal all of these fruits that we didn't saw in the beginning. And we have also this light, this fill light coming from the top that defines the floor and these fruits on the foreground. Okay, now I would like to make a small resume on what we have for now. On the beginning, we started with our sun. Once we were happy with the results coming from the sunlight, we set up one light coming from this part of the image here. That is the one giving us all the light in this area. Then we added these other lights that are on the middle and on the background. And then we get to this stage that we are now, in which we had a fill light coming from the front, one helping us in the backlight, and this other one that it's filling mostly this part of the floor and these fruits. I just want to tell you that at this point we're more or less about 70 or 80% of the total amount of lights and work that we'll have this image. As you can see, for sure there are no tricks, no strange parameters or things with V-Ray. I'm just using simple as the Solid Rocks plugin script that help us with the rendering. It's just using light cache for the primary bounces and also for the secondary bounces, and with the lowest quality on it. Again, there are no strange tricks, nothing fancy, just the light, the sunlight, some lights here, and as you can see, we're getting a nice result. This is very important because there are many people that get very complex on when lighting their scenes. They got very tangled in these lights and stuff. And we have to think just like a actual photographer, a cinema photographer, or a studio photographer, they just begin adding lights and testing instead of thinking on the technical side and getting strange solutions for simple things. Our last step will be to, of course, turn on the final lights, and I'm going to explain what are they and what they're intended for. Okay, let me just take a look here in my scene for you to look. And if we take a look at our last render, there's a very dark part in this right side of the image, and I would like to have some more information here, more presence, the fruits and the structures. So in this point I'm putting here a spotlight so I can have a very precise control of the light on the area. We can get very specific control on this area. It's a simple photometric spot. I'll turn it on and you'll see it give us a very nice light here in this part. Also, I'm going to turn on this spot mainly because there are some things that I want to make sure they are light in the foreground of the scene. Just here in this area now. Now the last lights that I'm going to turn on are the ones that are in this side, and what they're going to do is give me some more field light in the scale area that, well, at this point is not present, but here you'll have the scale hanging, and it will give them a special accent on this particular object that we'll have around here. And this is all of what I did for the lighting of the San Juan scene at this point, nothing else. Now I'll hit render so we can compare on what we have and our final setup. I'll pause the video for the render to process and not keep you here. Okay, now the render is over. Just to make clear, I unhide a lot of things here so we can get more elements going on, and the render time is very decent, just a little bit above 3 minutes. And it's an amazing time because consider that here, more or less in this area, we're having around 100 million faces, and this is the advantage of getting V-Ray proxies in your scene. The memory management and everything, it's very efficient. V-Ray is making a great job for sure. And one good tip about speed and managed processing in V-Ray is this little parameter we have over here. When you feel like your scene is not that efficient, mainly because of the memory management or the amount of things you have, try to increase this number, and you'll notice that the memory management will be better, and you'll get slower render times at some point. Well, now the difference between these two renders is mainly 3 more lights that we added in specific points. One that filled this lower part of the scene. You can notice there's more light here. The other one goes in this area that some cloth will be hanging around here. Remember, I have a spotlight in this area that it's giving us a very nice flood of light here. And the third one was a fill light specific for this scale here. And well, this is all that I did for the lighting of the scene. Later on, we'll be working on post-production processes that give us a little bit more of enhancement on the scene. And well, you can see now we're getting at this point we're very close to the original, well, to the references we used to work with. Just take a quick look, comparing with this image, and all of this with a very simple light setup. Let's just take a quick look on what we did. Just a simple sunlight, some lights that are here in this area, backlight, some other lights just to give a little bit more light on the foreground, and a very diffuse B-roll light for flooding the general scene. My last advice is to study a lot of photography. It's very important to know how the real cameras work, why the photographers use certain film sensibilities, some specific lenses and focal distances and all of that. It's very important. It'll give you very good background on what you have to do when lighting a scene. I hope this advice and my way of work, that maybe is not the best of all of them, could give you a good option to light your scene. And well, see you now on the next chapter. Thanks a lot for your time. See you then. See you then. See you then.